Right, okay. I'm a dickhead. I'm a dickhead. I'm not restarting the show again because you'll all be bloody pissed off if I do it. So, no, I'm not going to do that. But there we go. This is our guest. I pressed the wrong button again. Hello, guest.
Hello,
So,
nice to be here.
False start on the guest, but we'll come back to the guest in a second and explain a little bit about who they are. So we'll do the formalities. Right, I am Matthew Williams. I don't know about plugging in the microphone into the right socket before I start the show. Sitting next to me is Debbie, and let's flick over to Debbie's camera, and there she is. So everybody say hello to Debbie. Hello, Debbie. Right, and right, well, the formalities of the show are we have a chat room, which is normally down from where you're watching the video at the moment. The video is... the chat room is a little white thing. You can basically break it away if you want to, so you can watch the video and have the chat room in the same area if you split them apart. If you want to chat in the chat room and ask us questions, we recommend that you do it in capital letters if you want to ask the guest or myself a question or even Debbie a question. Do that in capital letters. It helps us to quickly read through the chat room and look for the capital letters things and know their questions, not just idle chat. So if you want to Skype the show, you can Skype in on CirclemakersTV. Add us as CirclemakersTV to Skype, and then you can speak to the guest if you wish to do that. And we can even take your webcam. So CirclemakersTV.org is the website for the show. And we've got information and pictures and stuff that we can't put on YouTube because of copyright reasons. So go over there and avail yourself of that stuff. And right, well, without further ado then, let's say hello to our guest who's in the magic chair. And we've got Cameron Kelly. So hello, Cameron.
Hello, nice to be here.
Nice to have you. So what we should start with then is, why are you here? What is your interest in crop circles and that sort of stuff? All right, are you even interested in crop circles?
Yes, I'm definitely interested in crop circles.
Right.
Yes. This is my second year coming here. Actually, my third year now.
Right.
As a crop circle enthusiast.
Great.
Yeah.
Just out of interest, where's your mic?
Oh.
It's on the inside.
Oh, now it's on the outside.
There you go.
Is that good?
That's better. It's louder. I was wondering why I had to turn the volume up so much then.
Okay, good.
Yeah, there we go. That's
We're
great.
all set.
Thank you.
Boy, we're having problems.
Yeah, we're really, really prepared here. That's fine. Okay, well, so basically, you are a crop circle interested person. How many years have you been coming to Wiltshire?
I first came 2 years ago. And that's when I didn't know what I thought about crop circles, but I saw one on the internet that really piqued my interest, the Phoenix formation.
Oh, right, yes.
And after seeing them on the internet for a long time, and I saw the Phoenix, and that's my daughter's name, I decided that was too synchronicitous to pass by, so I booked a ticket and came over.
Right. And when you came over, did you have any beliefs in the crop circles being made by extraterrestrials or otherworldly beings or things like that? What were your feelings on it when you started out?
Yeah, I entertained that thought. I didn't know who they were made by, so that seemed as good of explanation as any. I really didn't see after seeing the amazing formations on the computer that they could be made by people. So I really didn't think that, but I didn't know what I thought.
Right. Okay, you should join the Church of the Subgenius. Apparently, for $30, they'll tell you what you should think. They'll tell you what you already don't know that you think. So yes.
Well, I like to decide for myself, so I decided to come here and look around and ask everybody that I could and get as many opinions as I could, and that's what I started doing.
Excellent. So when you came over, whereabouts were you situated when you sort of got in? Which sort of cultural sort of establishment did you get in touch with? Was it the Barge or was it the Silent Circle Cafe?
I stopped by the Barge, and I also went to the Silent Circle Cafe and checked that out. And I was staying at a bed and breakfast in Easton Royal where they had a whole group of crop circle people from Holland.
Right.
So, I got, different views about it. My big plan was to go to the Wednesday night crop circle connector extravaganza at Alton Barnes.
Right.
And I did go to that, and ran into a lot of the people that I had seen in the crops, in the circles, but I was told, because I was talking politics with someone, that I really should talk to someone that they were going to recommend that was standing in the back of the room, which I did, and we had a nice discussion about 9/11 and politics and how the U.S. government is sinking and the state of the world, and it got from there into crop circles. And it was just a discussion, I think, about just truth about things in general.
Right. So that person wasn't necessarily a circle maker then you were speaking to. I was expecting the next bit was, and then they took me out for a circle.
No, that person was not necessarily a circle maker, but they claimed to know circle makers.
Ah.
And so we had a very nice conversation that lasted for a few more days on and off. And I began to think. But at that time also I was taken over to Glickman's little house.
Like the way we all call him Glickman now. We just
a little soiree with him, with some other circle enthusiasts that all went over from a bed and breakfast that I was staying at that point with Antoinette.
You don't mean that Mr. Glickman, do you?
Yes.
Yes.
That one.
That one, yeah.
That one.
The naked one.
Yeah. And he was just, adamant about crop circles not being made by people, even one of them, none of them, ever, in history, ever.
I've heard his songs. Was it Stand and Deliver and all that? You say he was he was adamant. He wasn't. His name wasn't Adam Ant.
No.
Right. Okay. He was just
adamant.
adamant.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
And he offered his, his reputation as proof that crop circles are not made by people. His reputation as an architect and famous person from the United States, now transported to England because of his dedication to crop circle research.
Perhaps even ejected back to England because of lack of cash. Who knows? Yes.
Who knows?
Yes. Will we ever learn the truth? But yes, Mr. Glickman. How did you find him?
Well, I was staying at a bed and breakfast at that point, and everyone said, "Oh, we have a special soiree with Mr. Glickman. He's the big expert this afternoon. Cameron, would you like to come? This will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Of course, how could I turn that down?
Or a once-in-your-checkbook opportunity.
Yes, yeah. So he did, of course, make sure that everyone bought his book and bought his posters. Yeah. And
well, I mean, yes, he's out to make a couple of quid for his efforts, I'm sure. But so you bought his book and you sat down and did you do the tea thing with him? Because often people go there and they pay £30 to have a cup of tea with Mr. Glickman.
No, I didn't pay £30 for tea.
No,
we just had water.
Oh, goodness! Was it blessed by Mr. Glickman? No. Okay.
No, but his book does make a convincing argument because of the complexity and geometry and the fact that the I mean, he pointed out a lot of things in his book that does make a convincing case for it not being able to be done by people.
Well, yes, he would know that, really, wouldn't he? Because he's never actually been out and seen it done. And, well, he's been offered, but I don't think he's interested. But, well, who can blame him? I mean, when he's going to lose out on his book sales. But
exactly.
Yes. So, yes, you had your little visit with Mr. Glickman, and this was sort of quite early on into your coming over here. And then where did it go from there?
Well, that was it. After my meeting with him, and I had met with this gentleman who knew CircleMakers, and we chatted, and then I left and went back to New York.
Right.
So that was 2 years ago, and then I returned last year.
So the first year was sort of like a golden kind of experience then, because it was all about the weirdness and
yeah. So and I saw lots of crop circles, and I must admit they were pretty impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah. Well, you're saying about the Phoenix one. I think the Phoenix may have been talked about on this show. Actually, people saying that they had something to do with the making of the Phoenix. Are you aware about admissions which have been made regarding that? Just out of interest.
That particular formation?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I believe that there's been somebody on this show talking about having made it in the past. I think one of the Circle Makers did actually talk about it.
And at that time, I also did get a chance to go up with you and look at circles from your plane.
Yes.
Which was wonderful.
Yes. In a strictly non-commercial sense, I should add.
Of course, non-commercial.
Absolutely non-commercial.
Right.
Yes. You have my Scout's honour. Yes. So yes, I took you up for a little fly around, and yeah, we got to know each other through the years from that point onwards. And what happened on year 2 then? I'm getting the feeling this is where it's all going to sort of start getting a little bit more interesting.
Year 2, I came back and I started talking to people at Silent Circle about the fact that they might be made by people, and being very surprised at some of the reactions I got. I mean, some of the people would entertain the thought and discuss it. Other people just came down like a hammer. Absolutely not. Why would I even say that? That kind of thing. So I kept up those conversations, and I think I was able to, maybe change some people's minds a little bit at Silent Circle just by being a little bit open and aware of what was going on.
Right.
So that was then, and then I got asked to go out on a team and be a circle maker.
How did that come about then? I mean, without giving any names of the individuals involved, because but I mean, if you can you could maybe give their agent names or something, but you have to be careful because we always slip up with these sorts of things, don't we? And end up giving the names out otherwise. But do you know their agent names?
Yes, Agent J.
Agent J. Wow. Agent J hasn't even been mentioned really on this show, I don't think. Apart from in very, very sort of careful tones, because Agent J is a master circle maker beyond whose name should never be mentioned. Really, it's like the Call of Cthulhu. You mention his name, and the walls will collapse around you, and he will appear. But yes, okay, the person that we cannot mention, but we've made a big feature out of now. Yes, you were invited out with him.
I went to the local pub and met some other Circle Maker team members.
Yes.
And the decision was made that we couldn't make this particular circle because it was just simply too big and too complicated for the amount of people we had. So we tried to go and round up some other Circle Makers. Couldn't find anybody else to do it that particular evening, decided to give it a shot anyway, and went out and made this amazing formation just with our small team.
Right.
A lot of sweat equity went into that.
Okay, I mean, just out of interest, did they have another design in the wings in case they didn't get enough people, or did they make something up very quickly? Because
no, they had the design that they were going to do, and that was it.
Yeah.
And we decided we would just work very hard to make sure it got done.
Oh, so you did do the original design, the one that they thought they didn't have enough people to do?
We did it.
Yeah, and you just worked like stink.
Right.
How many people were there on this?
I think there were 5.
5. Okay, so that's a medium-sized team then. Yeah. And would you say, without revealing the exact location, that this was in the main area of Circle's appearance?
Oh, definitely.
And would you say it was celebrated as a circle that people said was extraterrestrial or not possible for humans to make after that point?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So you're witness to all that kind of
Yeah.
talk that goes on in the pubs afterwards. And,
Oh, sure.
How did that make you feel? I mean, I know how it kind of feels, but how did it make you feel? I know it's a strange thing, eh?
Yeah, that and then the one that we also did this year. It's just unbelievable when people come up with all the amazing explanations about what the circles mean and why they were made on a certain day and why they were made in a certain field and what their significance is. When you know what the origin of it was and you know that it was, you and other people that did it, and people are very creative in their imaginations.
Or, maybe they genuinely do believe, I suppose, that these things are genuinely paranormal. And they've got an honest belief that these things are there in that way. And, I mean, I sometimes think to myself, I can't take away somebody's saying they've seen a UFO above a crop circle, even though I know it was made by people. But do you find that people try to draw one thing together, a conclusion? They say, well, like I've had a strange experience and this crop circle was there, so the crop circle must have had something to do with the strange experience.
Definitely people do that.
They draw the conclusions. They
Yeah.
joining the dots, I think, is the term, isn't it? They join
Yeah.
the dots. And
Yeah, I think people definitely do that when they've had experiences out in the field. But what I'm talking about more is when they see the formation and then they look at the geometry of it or the formation of it in terms of how it's diagrammed. And then because it is either complicated or meaningful in some way, then therefore it must have been made by someone other than people. If it's some ancient Aztec symbol, it must have been made by aliens and it couldn't have been made by people, because how would people know that ancient Aztec symbol? Whereas they could very easily have gotten it off the internet and then, made a beautiful formation around it in their own mind with their own creativity.
So, how many circles would you say you've made to date?
One last year, one this year.
That's it. So just a total of 2.
Yep.
So you're not a virgin. In terms, you've made 1 or 2. How would you describe yourself then? As a kind of like a newcomer, or do you feel that you've achieved quite high levels of circle making?
Well, I think I've achieved high levels of circle making as a team member, but I don't think that would give me any ability to go out and make a circle on my own.
Oh,
I mean, I was simply told what to do and did it. So I was an executor.
Yes,
I was
but still working with the best sort of teams out there, probably. So yes.
And it was fantastic. It was really a fantastic thing to do, and to be up all night out in the field and following the directions and then seeing this design, which I saw on paper, come to fruition in the field.
Yeah, we've got a question here. I'll just pop across to Debbie, and we'll see what people are asking.
Yeah, hi Cameron. It's Samuse, and he'd like to know, have you ever done a design of your own yet?
No. Nope, I was just a team member.
So have you got any plans to attempt it yourself when you go back in the USA?
Well, I don't really live in an area where they do farming. It's more of a suburban area, so I don't think I would be able to make a circle on somebody's front lawn.
You could get a bulldozer and you can make house circles, and just push it all down. Make sure you get a good weave going in there, though. Turn the dozer around a few times, and get it from a different angle. Yeah. Okay. Well, seeing that you've actually gone out now with an experienced team, you've got the knowledge that a very complicated design. I would take it was quite a complicated design. Would be achievable in the hours of darkness. How do you feel about the darkness issue, which we often get asked about and people deny? You can't work in the dark. What would you say to that?
Well, first of all, if anyone has ever gone camping, they can know from that you can exist in the dark and see in the dark. Maybe not see enough to read or anything, but you can certainly see enough to maneuver in a field.
Yes.
And also the way the leader of the circle making has everything pre-planned. It's very easy to work, just from a central location, kind of working out, making the formation from the center without really being able to see the whole scope of it. You don't see the whole scope of what you've created until the next morning.
Yeah. And obviously going back then in the morning, did you go very early to see it from a nearby hillside?
Yes.
And so we probably imagine we can guess where this might have been. Then I'm not sure myself because I haven't actually asked. Maybe better, I don't know, but I can imagine it where it could have been if it's got a good vantage point. So you had a good look, and
it's spectacular.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did you?
I mean, I
what were your
couldn't believe
feelings?
that. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that we had made it. But I know I was there, and so
Yeah.
so I know I did. But
Would you say that what you'd done then compared to what you'd seen in other circles, could you say that the quality of what you'd done looked as good from a distance as other circles?
yeah,
How about inside it? Did you go actually back into the formation when other people were
No.
there? And you didn't go back in?
no,
Ah.
I wasn't able to go back in.
You weren't able to?
No, because I left that next day,
Oh, dear. Yeah.
so I wasn't able to go back in.
It's quite a common thing. I think circle makers don't often go back into the formations they've created. It's they kind of leave them alone and walk away.
Exactly, and let
Yeah.
other people
Yeah.
enjoy them.
I mean, did you get a chance this year with a circle to go back into it?
No.
You haven't either with that one. Right, okay. I just wondered whether you could compare the quality of the lay and the innards of the circle with other ones, if you had any opinions on that.
No, I couldn't do that.
Yeah. So you haven't studied them, on photos and things like that as well?
The ones that I was participating in,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in the photos that I've seen, they look just as real and good as any of the other formations that I've seen. Yes, definitely.
Were there any complex lay patterns in there and things that would shine out when the camera angles were taken from certain directions when the aerial photography was done?
Yeah, the fact that there was no line that defined the circles.
Right, so there were no work lines or walk lines, as we
Correct.
call them. Yeah? Mm-hmm. It was all hidden.
Right,
Hidden
which
away.
was pretty amazing.
Mm.
And took some effort to accomplish that, but I think it was worth it.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to say, let's go back to the first one and then come on to the second, but how long did it take you to actually achieve making the formations?
How
in the
many
darkness?
hours?
Yes, how many hours?
We were out the whole night. So
Starting when it gets dark, what, about
yeah,
10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then getting there, setting up, starting working until maybe 3 or 4 the next morning, maybe 4 the first time, I can't really remember.
Mm.
And then walking all the way back out, which takes time,
Yeah.
packing up and getting out.
Yeah. Did you find it hard work? Well, you did
Yes.
say actually that you had to work because it was the big design and you
It was harder work than I expected it to be. Very,
Yeah.
very hard work, tromping down the crop. And it just is continual. It's like a great aerobic workout that doesn't stop.
Yeah. And you haven't really got any time to mess around or kind of,
No.
sit down and reflect if you're working that flat out.
You're just working. You finish one section, the leader tells you to go to another section and work there and tromp that circle down, and you do that, and then you move to another one and do that. So you're
Yep.
just constantly tromping down the crop.
Were you flattening areas or did you get to go on actually scribing bits out as well?
I was flattening.
Just mostly flattening, okay. Right. Right, I think we got another question. Let's go across to Debbie and fire up this
One.
mic.
Sonia would like to know, were there cubes involved?
No.
Oh,
these
that's
were-
a bit specific.
Yeah. Oh, and some users would like to know, did you see any farmers?
I was going to come to something like that, but yeah.
No, I didn't see any farmers.
So you got away scot-free.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That was going to be one of my questions was how did you feel? Were you a little bit sort of nervous about going in there and whether or not you'd get caught? I mean, not that anybody really ever gets caught, but, how did you feel about it? Were you did you feel like you were in good hands and you could trust the people you were going in with?
The first time I felt a little bit more shaky about it when I had done it for the first time because, it was going onto someone else's property. And when we came back, we were walking along this trail, and all of a sudden, either bats or birds all flew out, and that was kind of a little scary. And then walking back through the town, sort of in the middle of the night, that seemed a little sketchy. So, but then the second time, I felt I was in very good hands, and it was all like clockwork and really well put together. And we just went in and did what we had to do and came out.
Right. Okay, well, it sounds like you've got your sort of your legs on it then. But right, Debbie, I think we've got another question, isn't it?
Yes, Sonia again. She's saying, can I ask you why you feel you're unable to say which formation it is?
I don't think that that's really necessary for me to say which one it was. I think that would give away too much information that's not necessary about who I was with.
Yeah, I suppose in some respects, I mean, we did sort of have a chat about this. Might put you in a little bit of an awkward legal situation if you were to admit to exactly which one. But keeping it general and saying, you know, roughly where it was and which years you were working, that keeps you safe, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I suppose you do want to come back to the UK again.
Yes.
Without a
I
criminal
was wondering
record.
about that as a U.S. citizen, if that would have any implications, me being a circle maker helper, if that would...
Well, I think they'd have to actually pin you to a specific formation at a specific time and date in order to prosecute you. So if you kept it very general, I mean, you could always retract and deny afterwards and say, no, I was only joking. I was just drunk in the pub with a bunch of guys, and I thought it'd be really cool to say I'd made some crop circles. Yes, but there we are. So yes, you've obviously made these 2 circles now. You've seen photographs of them. Have you seen them in books and for sale? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
In newspapers even?
No.
You haven't seen any newspapers with it in?
Well, I haven't seen the circle that I helped make in a newspaper.
Right.
But I have seen them now in books and on websites and on postcards for sale. And
in any TV documentaries or any documentaries?
I don't know.
Not sure.
No.
Okay. Right. Well, I mean, obviously you've come a long way with this, and where do you see yourself going with all this type of circle maker activity? Do you think you're going to make some more?
If I come back here next year, I would certainly like to be on a team again. Yeah, it was fantastic. Okay,
well, that's very good. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll let people ask some questions because we want to get some good questions in for you. Tax your mind. And in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll pop across and we'll have a little chat about the good old gossip that is Crop Circle World. We've also got some photos from our guest, and we will bring them in a second. We've got a newspaper this week which has Crop Circle in it, and I've gone and closed it now. Maybe if I hand this
29.
back. You know it, do you? Oh, it's 29.
Yeah.
There we go. Right. We've also got this newspaper with the Daily Mail. Shall I show them this?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Drop the middle of the paper. So, there we go. Fields of Gold. And it's got some pictures. I bet these are Steve Alexander photos. Let's just go and find out whether my theory's right. Hang on. I wonder if it's right. Doesn't actually say here. I wonder who these photos are by then. Normally you get a credit in them for who they're by, but no. It might be in there somewhere. But anyway, yes, 2 pages. Go on then, I'll tell you what. Do you want to tell us what this is about, or do you want to go through it and explain to us what's on this page and whether you like the story? We can give it back to you and...
Well, basically, this article talks about how much money crop circles are making for the tourism in the area. And even though some farmers feel that it's costing them to have crop circles happen in their fields, even if they do put in a box and have money collected, that generally this is harming the fields and harming the crops, but it is making a lot of people a lot of money.
Just not the farmers so much.
Not the farmers, correct.
Yeah.
And it talks about different groups that have come over and are going around now in tours and seeing all the different circles and staying in devices and paying a lot of money to do that.
Right, okay.
So,
I believe that one farmer, Tim Carson, was saying that he now cuts them out. You know, he's quite determined to get rid of them. Have you seen much of that happening this year? You know, have you seen many? I mean, I think there have been a few. What are your feelings on what's been happening with?
Yeah, I think that's what
out?
has been happening is that sometimes the crop circles are appearing and they're being cut out the next day by farmers who might be a little bit pissed off.
Yes, indeed. And there was that very big one recently, wasn't there, at Inkpen Hill, which the farmer cut out, which was a big shame. You know,
exactly.
that, you know, it is seeming to actually happen this year. There's been a lot more of this, and it's affecting the art and probably, you know, reduced the numbers slightly on certain farmers' land, but hasn't stopped it altogether. So Well, thanks for the newspaper clipping thing. We'll come back to some more of your stuff in a minute because you can tell us a bit about your encounters at Steve Alexander's Summer Lectures Conference.
Okay.
Yes, so we'll do that in a second. Right, I was going to tell you a little bit about some problems which we've been having recently, or I've been having. I can't go into the full details for legal reasons, but unfortunately, I have to say some sad news. I think that if things go according to somebody else's plans, due to legal situations, my landlord has actually got very pissed off that I got arrested. So my landlord has decided to kick me out and has given me 2 weeks' notice. So, that being the case, I sadly have to say that I think there may be a period where Circlemakers TV does not appear because I will not have a house to do it from and maybe not an internet connection. So the certainty of sort of Circlemakers TV is a little bit sort of fraught at the moment. But we will keep you updated on this, and it's a very sad thing that all this has actually happened. Some of you are a little bit aware of some of the details, but I can assure you that the details you think you know probably aren't in fact the correct details. In fact, there was some rather erroneous information published in the Gazette and Herald this week, which I can assure you the factuality of it was very askew. So we will give you the full facts when we can, but for legal reasons, we don't want to harm the case by discussing these things. But like I say, it's very sad, but I think this is going to be one of the last shows of Circlemakers TV, not because of my choosing to stop the show, but because I'm basically going to be out of a place. So if anybody knows of any houses out there that are going, who are like reformed circle makers who don't make circles anymore, just do TV programs about them, if they can handle that, if they can handle that sort of action, then please let us know at CirclemakersTV.org. The email address is there, so we'd love to have some good news relating to this, because it's been a couple of weeks of quite boring crap, really, relating to nonsense that certain people have been causing me. So yes, that's the main news. Also, right. Well, have you got any questions?
Nightmare Bug said you can do it from his.
I can do it from yours and your house.
Yeah, Nightmare Bug says you can do it from his. So.
Where does Nightmare Bugs live?
Yeah, where do you live, Nightmare Bugs?
Okay. Yes. So if you because there's a 10-second delay, they'll get that in about 10 seconds. But I'm looking for something in the area, but if push comes to shove, I don't know. I may end up having to go back to Wales, which is going to be not an option I really want to do. But what can you do? What can you do when I've got all this equipment and boxes full of stuff, and I'm not used to sort of living out of anywhere other than a house, really. I lived in my car for a year when I first came to the area, but I don't really want to have to do it again. It's not the nicest sort of existence. I mean, you've got some experience with that. What do you think? You did it for about a year, didn't you? Living in a van, and
I did it for 2 years.
2 years. My God.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't have all the stuff you've got.
No, but you've kind of gone back into working
a house,
now,
yeah.
and a house and stuff. So
conveniences and stuff.
yeah, being able to wash your clothes, have a bath,
a shower, flush a toilet,
interwebs,
sort of dig a hole.
Yes, yeah. But it served you quite well for a bit. I don't know I don't know what I'd do with the dog though, because the dog would not be able to survive in a small space. Yeah. So I've got to get a place with a back garden, unfortunately. So that's us. That's our news, really. That was all we got to say on that matter. But have we got any other questions? Oh, somebody says, "Wish me well, Tinkerbell." Thank you very much. Yeah. Sir Muzz says, "Bunch of bustards." Yeah, exactly. So let's bring up the chat channel anyway, so people can see what they're chatting about. Now is the time to write obscene material, and quickly it will be shown on the screen and immortalised forever. So, there's a big part of me is thinking, I should maybe take all these old episodes of Circlemakers TV and edit out certain people that have caused me a load of grief recently, and I will be making a full report about what all this was about. But I'm thinking, well, you kind of know who this is, and you know why this is. So I'll just leave those videos up there because they are a historical archive. I can't go changing history. I can't go changing what's on there. But It's rather annoying when I look at these videos now and think to myself, thank you. Yes, I feel the warm poo trickling down my head. Thank you for dumping on me. Yes, well done. Yes, dumping on me from a top of a tall building. I can see Debbie looking at me here. You know some of this, don't you? Because you were there when some of this stuff was actually happening and saw some of it. And yes, it was an interesting day, wasn't it?
Extremely interesting day. Oh, my word.
Yes, extremely interesting, yes. So, oh well, I'm not going to protest my innocence here. I shall do that for the police and the courts, and I will give you the results, and we shall see where we go from there. But okay, shall we go back across to our guest? Are you up for some more?
Sure.
Yeah, after I've had my little moan on. Yeah. So let's pop back over to Cameron, and we'll find out some more stuff. So. Right. Well, now you've told us about the crop circles, we'll find a little bit about your background, I suppose, because you're interested in alternative technologies and energy-saving things for the goodness of the planet. Mm-hmm. How would you describe yourself in this respect?
Well, I got into all of this from doing permaculture training, which I did a couple of years ago in New York. And that's kind of becoming the way people are going that have been very political over the last 20 years in the U.S. And knowing that the government is probably going to be going down at some point, and kind of preparing and planning for what's going to happen once that does happen, and becoming more self-sufficient and being possibly off the grid and being able to survive without a strong federal government that gives you a lot of the stuff that you're used to having.
Yes, yes.
So
there's a lot of people in America at the moment thinking that things could go a little bit, as we have a term for it. I think it's called tits up. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with this term?
Nope.
Tits up?
That's not good, though.
Tits up means your breasts pointing upwards towards the sky because you are on your back in some state of, sort of death or, disrepair.
Well, things are bad.
Yeah, so when things go tits up in America, and you haven't got a government anymore, and maybe the money system has collapsed, that things are going to become like a feudal state, and people are going to need their energy systems off the grid. And, do you think that many people are prepared in the United States? What's the situation at the moment out there?
People in the United States are clueless as to what's going on mostly. They're, basically drugged by drugs and TV. And drugs, I don't mean bad, good drugs. I mean prescription drugs, which is now just out of control in the U.S. I don't know if it is here, but especially with kids being just drugged from an early age now for attention deficit disorder and all these other kinds of things, and people on Prozac and all kinds of, mind-altering medications so that they can exist in this world that's really bad.
Right.
And getting worse.
Yes. Well, I mean, it does seem to be a sort of drug culture, doesn't it, America, where, putting kids on stimulants so that they can just manage to get through school. Right. And all this sort of stuff.
And then they come home and they just play video games and watch TV. And everyone's getting,
fatter. I thought you were going to say that then, yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And, especially kids, it's a very sad state of affairs. Yeah. So people need to move back to being able to do things more themselves and being a little bit more self-sufficient and self-sustaining. And that's what one of the little companies that I'm working on is doing.
Right.
Skills Off the Grid.
Okay, let's bring that up, the title we've got here. So this is Cameron Kelly, and talking to us tonight about crop circles and also getting off the grid. So using alternative energy sources such as solar, wind, and I suppose wave, but do you get into that sort of stuff?
Well,
wave power? Hydro?
Not that any of these technologies are really going to be the savior of anything, since, they all require other forms of technology to even exist. So I'm talking about going to a point where we have less technology, less energy, and we begin to exist with less and do with less and do things more by hand and, in small communities.
Yeah. So you're sort of against the wasteful culture that we live in then, whereby people are kind of throwing out their settees and televisions to get new TVs and settees, even though there's probably not that much wrong with the old ones. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of feel that. I kind of notice people redecorating sometimes, and you think, well, did it really need a complete new.
Well, that's all people do in the U.S.
Yeah.
Where I live, at least, all people do is just buy new stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a culture of buying and watching TV.
Do you think TV is much to blame for this, for kind of planting the seeds in people's minds
Definitely.
of, like, hey, you don't want to live with that old settee because everyone will think you're grimy, and then ha 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 ha, you won't have any girlfriends, and it's like, but if you have new settee, do 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 do, it's kind of like, and then your life will be perfect because you have new settee.
Definitely.
And it's new everything and
new everything all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
All new all the time. And meanwhile, no one's happy. At least, where I live, everyone's desperately unhappy and depressed. And, and so I've been doing workshops that teach people, some of the basic skills that we used to know how to do, like back in the day.
Yeah.
And people even, just gardening, making things, making sculptures, making crafts,
cooking even,
and people find they learn how to do some of these things and they really enjoy it. They don't consider it to be a big hassle like we've been taught that it should be.
Yeah.
They do these things and they love it. They love gardening. They love making things. They love, fixing their own bike instead of taking it to get fixed.
Yes.
And they feel, a sense of accomplishment. The same sort of sense of accomplishment that I felt after making a circle.
Yeah.
Like doing something, not just sitting around and, watching TV or complaining, but actually like doing something.
Being active, yeah.
Being active.
Yeah.
And being active with a group of people.
Sure. So, the culture is there that says we must buy these things and we must do all this sort of stuff. I mean, do you think there's any remedy for that type of culture? Because you and me, I suppose, and many other people we know, we might see ourselves as kind of like a minority when it comes to this type of stuff. Do you feel in some respects that it's kind of like pushing against the wind? I
do. I feel like it's pushing against the wind because we're up against this big culture of excess. But on the other hand, I think it's imploding. As we just saw from what went on in the U.S. with the debt. The end of cheap oil is over. We can't keep growing. We can't keep consuming. It's over. It's over. And so, I think it's just going to happen on its own, and we just have to be ready to pick up the pieces for when when the whole system goes down.
Right, we got a question then?
Yeah, it's just from me, actually. I was just going to say, where do you think it's all going to end? And I mean, how is it going to end? I mean, how are we going to move on from this?
I think what's going on in Greece and what's going on in Spain, and what's going on in some of the Arab states with these huge protests that they're having. And in Greece now, people just stopping, working. People are stopping taking tolls at toll booths. Yeah. Cabs are stopping driving people to the airports. It's just like a work stoppage. And people are going into their own neighborhoods and just being concerned with what's going on in their own neighborhoods, that the people in their own neighborhood have food and water and, just taking care. And I think that's what it's going to go back to. I think it's going to be relocalizing, just like the transition towns.
I definitely agree with you that we need to go back to a much simpler time. We need to get rid of all the crap that we actually don't need to exist and go back to a much simpler time and live in harmony with the planet and with ourselves. Because look what we've become. Look at our children growing up. I mean, what the hell's going on with all the, the new children coming out?
Right.
Where is it going to end? They're our future, basically. And what are they being taught? It's like what you said.
They're being taught just buy. Just go into debt and buy.
Drugs,
right.
Bloody TV, computer games, TV. I mean, what sort of future is that for them? Where is it going to lead? We're just going to spiral into, I don't know, bloody crap. I just don't understand where it's going to end and where we're going to get.
Well, I think it's ending because it can't go on any longer. The infinite growth is not possible, and it just can't go on. And I think the United States is evidence of that. And also what's happening in some of these other countries now. Yeah. I think bit by bit it's going to be happening here. I mean, it's already happening here. I just read an article yesterday how practically all of the water systems in the UK now are being bought by foreign concerns. I was just told that Wilshire Water, I think, is owned by an Indonesian company. And now a tram line in one of the Gloucester or something is being bought by a French company. So even the internal workings of English towns and communities are being bought by outside concerns with only one reason in mind, and that is to make profit, not to to give good service, but just to make profit. And the same thing's happening in the U.S.
Maybe not even, sorry,
Yeah.
not even with the profit aspect. I mean, like countries like China buying American debt and buying American ports, looking after the military facilities. China owns the security companies that look after American military facilities.
And
which
Israel.
Seems a little bit odd,
Yeah.
you know. It's like, how does this work? And it's almost like, whether we like it or not, somebody has got designs on making this planet become one government, one thing. It seems like this New World Order conspiracy is not much of a conspiracy. I mean, it's going on every day.
It's pretty blatant.
It's, you know, it's like, well, where's all America's money going to go? Well, they'll all be buying their iPods, which are made in China, you know,
Right.
and their iPhones are made in China.
Well,
And,
even all the solar panels are made in China.
you know, do we even make anything anymore? It's like they say we've got the brains, but I think pretty soon that's going to disappear as well, you know, because eventually, you know, we won't have the same sort of level of technology being created in the West. It'll actually start becoming originated in the East. And then where will we be then? It'll just be like, well, we have to pay them our money to get anything.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, where's the independence? You know, independence
There's
of
no
states,
independence.
independence of people, independence of states. It's all disappearing. So it's like you're going to be beholden to other countries to get food. So it's like, if Britain doesn't pay X country for its food, is it going to starve? Because maybe Britain won't even be making food anymore. Or if we need electronics, if we don't buy them off Japan, will anybody else be able to supply them? You know, it's kind of like, are things going this way? I'm wondering. And of course, I've said it before on the show, and I think a lot of people think I'm not racist, but I mean, I'm listening to what people are telling me on the TV and basically in the news, that in about 30 years' time, this country, our great island of Britain, is going to be a Muslim country, because there's going to be more voters that are Muslim than the rest of us. So therefore, you know, things are changing for that line as well. I mean, where in the world will we go to have a culture of our own? You know, a culture that we grew up with. Where will our culture be? Will our culture be homogenized into something else, or will we be told, actually, your culture, the British culture, is now illegal? And you have to follow the Quran, and if you don't, you'll be severely beaten with a stone round the head. So,
Well, I mean,
what do you think of that?
well,
Not
you
that
know,
you don't have to answer that, by the way.
no, I'm not going to, it's not that I'm not going to answer it, but I mean, how do you think people felt around the world, in Africa and India and Asia, when the Great British Empire, you know, was at its peak?
Yes.
And we imported our culture into those areas and forced people from, you know, other areas to adopt our culture.
Very good
or
point.
adopt to the UK culture. And I mean, we're most to blame in the US, you know, with the settlers coming over and going across the country and basically just killing all of the Native American people that live there and taking all of their land.
You are right, actually. We have
So-
got it coming to us, haven't we?
I think we've got it coming to us.
Oh, we've got it coming to us. Oh, dear. Yes, it's coming. I'm going to build a big bunker in the ground and just hide. You know?
But let me tell you one thing about the Alternative Technology Center, because they talked all about, you know, putting on solar panels and
Yes.
closing off your light switch when you leave the room,
Yes.
and making sure that your toilet doesn't have too much water to flush so you don't waste water.
Yep.
And they talked about how the US and the UK are major energy users, and we have a huge carbon footprint. But then I asked about the US military, and that's not counted in any calculations about energy use for the US. And the military is the largest user of energy, more so than the countries themselves. The US military uses more energy and pollutes more than any other country, essentially. And that's not even counted. So we
Yeah.
have to think about that.
Yes, I'm sure they don't want that being talked about, do
No.
they? Because what they want is new laws that allow them to go and check on Mrs. Miggins and whether she's got too many bars turned on her electric fire.
Right.
And they want to have these laws. I think they've got them in the States now, where they can actually come into your house and check you out and see what your energy usage is. And then they come back, and if you haven't actually got less energy usage by the time they come back, they can literally evict you from your house. So pretty much what's going to happen to me pretty soon is, you know, they can actually take you out of the house and say, look, you know, not your house anymore. You're just using too much energy. And apparently they've got police ready to do this job, trained up for it. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, police are ready to
scary.
do a lot of stuff in the US.
I sounded like Michael Glickman then. I was like, that's scary. That's scary.
Well, you won't have to worry, though. If you're evicted, you won't be an energy user.
No, I'll just be using petrol in my car to keep myself warm on the top of a hill, which is worse. I don't know, which is more efficient, a nuclear generator or Matt in his car on the top of a hill. Yes, these are the questions we must ask. So, well, what about what exactly do you do then? You actually help people to understand how to change their systems from being on the grid to being solar and other systems. Do you want to explain a little bit about how that works and what the process is and how much the cost is and whether or not it's feasible for many people to do this?
Well, that is not exactly what I do.
Okay, sorry.
Just the whole solar thing and everything. I mean, I certainly, we certainly have workshops where people learn about that. But what I'm more concerned with right now is people learning about how to do skills again, skills that we used to know how to do before, and now we've forgotten how to do. Skills about how to grow food and then, keep food for the winter when you're not on the grid. What happens if your electricity goes out and you have all this food that you've grown? How to process the food by either, dehydrating it or canning it or putting it in a cold cellar so that you can keep it over the winter and have food over the winter.
Yeah. That's a weird one, isn't it? Because a lot of people, if you say to them, well, how do you store fruit? And how long does it keep for? And which things have to be refrigerated and which things don't. People really don't know these days. No. It's not something they teach in school. It's kind of like you buy stuff, it goes off, you buy more.
Yeah.
What happens when the supply ends or there's a problem?
Yeah.
Well,
we've had that in the U.S. with snowstorms, and then the trucks don't come through, and people, only have like a day's worth of food stored in their house. And they said for the U.S. that most major cities, including New York, only has 3 days worth of food. So if there would be some sort of an interruption in energy and trucks wouldn't be able to get in, the entire city of New York, of Manhattan, could only survive for 3 days, and then people would have no food.
Yeah.
So, yeah, same as here in the cities.
Yeah. So people really aren't prepared for this sort of stuff. I mean, what I don't dare say you may not be somebody who goes into the sort of conspiracy angle on this, but do you think well, I'll ask you the question. Do you think there's a conspiracy to kind of, send things to a point where people can't survive on their own anymore and then create a nasty situation so that it throws everything into disarray? Do you believe in conspiracy theories? Have you studied any of that?
I don't know if I call them conspiracy theories, but I think that definitely the rich are getting richer worldwide, and the middle class is becoming poor, and the concentration of wealth is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So if that's a conspiracy or if it's just out and out evil greed, I don't know which one, but that's certainly what's going on. And in the United States, it's happening to a greater extent, with the concentration of wealth in the United States now being concentrated in maybe 4% of the population, meaning they own everything, the entire infrastructure, the farmland, the trains, the buildings. A small percentage of the population of the U.S. essentially owns most of the country, and the rest of us people just kind of work day by day to try to pay our bills.
And even more people are losing their houses every day, aren't they, through debt?
In the U.S., it's a big problem right now, and unemployment is getting, higher and higher and higher.
Break your arm, you not only lose your job, but you end up spending, the whole of your money of your house. You have to put your house up, to get your arm fixed and stuff like that.
Yeah, in the U.S., we don't have, universal health care like you have here, even though your system might not be the best. At least you have a system. We have no system. So I, for one, have no health care. So if something happens to me and I have to go to the hospital, I have to pay out of pocket. That's it. And it might be, I don't know, $1,000 to go to the emergency room. It might be $10,000 for an operation. That's the way it works.
Goodness gracious. And have you ever had any situations like that,
Well, I broke my arm.
And how much did it cost you?
It cost thousands of dollars. I paid it off for years afterwards.
Whoa.
So healthcare and education are the things that are killers in the U.S. now. My youngest daughter just graduated from college, and my daughters have thousands, and they have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt from going to college. So they start off with their new job just after graduating, and they have $100,000 worth of debt.
Goodness gracious. You're never going to escape the system like that, are you?
Exactly. And that's the way they like it.
Trying to get off the grid. I mean, you need to get off the money grid as well, by the sounds of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, money is the whole, that's the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes. So I think we've got a question from Debbie. So.
Yeah, it's just going back to the alternative energy thing that you was talking about, because Sonia says that you talked to someone called Win Keach, and basically he's made a wind generator, and it's saying that it's very low cost and efficient, and it fits on any roof. So she was just saying, get in touch with a guy called Win Keach.
That's a great idea, and I mean, there are sources of power like that can help with supplying, domestic energy. Whether it be, heating or whatever in your own home. But none of windmills and solar power are not going to provide gas and oil for our vehicles.
No.
It doesn't make that. It might make heat for our homes, but
we need to go back to a simpler time, like you said before. We need to get rid of all that crap. We don't need it. We don't need it to live, do we?
No.
We just need to stay where we are and just live and exist in harmony with what we've got. We don't need bloody great big Hummers and all the rest of it. And do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely ridiculous. We've completely outsourced ourselves, and it's just going crazy.
Where I live, women get in their Hummer and drive, down the street to the supermarket and drive home. They don't even ever go off-road. They don't even know what off-road is.
No. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just status as well, isn't it? I mean, I've been to the States a few times, and excuse me for saying this, but it seems like people are obsessed with kind of being better or looking better, or the impression I get is that there is a lot of racism. There's a lot of deep-seated racism still in the United States, and it almost seems like it's not just about your cultural status. It's about which racial background you come from, whether or not you're taken seriously, and to be honest, America seems like it's just about to explode. What do you think about that?
I think America's just about to explode.
It is, yeah.
In the U.S., a lot of people complain about there are a lot of Hispanic people coming up from South America and Central America. Understandably so, because we have wrecked most of their economies over the past 100 years. With our NAFTA, our different trade agreements and everything. Yeah. So we've made it so that we make it impossible for people to live in their own country and make a living. They have to come to the U.S. because otherwise they'd just starve.
Yeah.
And we've done that. So
seems like a lot of hypocrisy goes on as well, where people are prepared to sort of stand up and go, "Hey, these bloody people coming down from Mexico, and they're but we need a Mexican gardener, so we'll just to do the gardening. But hey, these people coming from Mexico stealing my jobs. But it's kind of like, well, don't hire these people. If you don't like them coming into your country, well, don't hire them. But it seems like everybody's got there's a dual standard things going on, and a lot of households have got their secret Mexican sort of worker. It's a bit like the Polish, sort of like people who come over and do a lot of the very high quality work they do in this country. But people are complaining. They're going, these Polish people coming over here and working for nothing and sending all the money back to Poland and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, why don't you just charge less then, and maybe you'd get the business instead of the Polish people,
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's all
it's
part
not
of the
easy
problem.
to. Yeah.
I mean, basically, the United States built up its society and culture of which white men are so proud because of slavery, which gave a big boon to the economy. I mean, all that free labor for all those years, that made a lot of people very rich. And then, secondly, stealing land from Native American people, stealing a country and using it for yourself, that made a bundle for rich white guys.
Still is, but
so,
it sounds,
hey, they did really well, but they both, they basically stole everything and even stole the labor of, black people who, even now, even after the civil rights movements of the 70s and everything, there's still a dual culture in the United States.
Yeah, seems that way. I got to say, even though I think Britain probably started the slave trade, I think we've actually moved on a little bit. And it seems to me like America is kind of stuck. It's stuck at the moment, and it's not progressing. Certainly on a social level, and certainly with the healthcare, it seems so nasty the way that people get just left to rot, with no healthcare.
Yeah,
not good. Not good. Yeah. Okay, well, coming back to crop circles, I think we've had some. We'll get back to the crop circles. Somebody was asking, where does all this kind of stuff with the energy and alternatives fit into the crop circles?
Well, it doesn't necessarily fit in, but I came here looking for the truth about what was going on. And that's what I've done with the whole energy and the whole political questions that I've had over the years, just like looking for truth. And so when I came here the first time a couple of years ago to look at crop circles, I came with an open mind, and I listened to people and I asked questions, and I've learned from it. And it just doesn't seem to be that the people that are doing all the crop circle research have an open mind or are learning anything from it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know why, because it seems pretty apparent.
Yeah, I mean, have you you've tried to talk to these people, or do you keep your head down a little bit? Because I mean, you obviously tonight on the show, you're obviously sticking your head a little bit above the water.
No, I've been. Well,
have
2
you been
years
trying
ago,
to
I
talk
went
to people?
I started out at the Marlborough conference.
Oh yes,
that's what I went to 2 years ago, and that was my introduction to it.
Wiltshire Crop Circle Studies Group. Yeah,
people had interesting things to say, not necessarily even about crop circles.
Sorry.
But then, I asked people, or I expressed an interest in finding out the truth over the last couple of years, and and asking in a very nice way and being open to what people say. But this year I went to the Crop Circle Conference in Devizes at the Corn Exchange. Yes. Well, I went there for one afternoon and participated in an audience question.
Yes,
session.
I was going to ask you about this because this is a good analysis.
I was pretty surprised at the reaction that I got.
Yeah.
Again, just asking open-minded questions, and this is after, I had made a circle now this year. I went to the auction of all the crop circle designs that were auctioned off for a very good cause. So I had all that background too, and I went and I just simply asked a question of the group. What did they think about the idea that, the circles are being made by people, because they seem like they are, what is their reaction to that? And I was slammed.
Yeah.
Basically.
I had spoken to you, hadn't I, before you went in, and I said, make sure you get a plug-in for Circlemakers TV, which, okay, you didn't manage to get the plug-in for Circlemakers TV.
I think I would have been just, I would have been staked or something if I had done that. I don't know.
Yeah, but you were a little bit, I'm quite proud to say, you were a little bit of a spy for us, because you said you were going to go in and say something quite, that went against the grain, and you did. Very good.
I did.
I'm glad you did.
And I asked, and...
Yes.
in the nicest way I could.
Yeah.
And a gentleman got up. I think his name was Ian Bailey, a gentleman with a kilt.
I think we got a photo of him here. Should we show this photo? Mm-hmm. There you go. There's a photo.
Ian got up and essentially told me that my question was infantile first. Then he told me that he's dealt with these circle maker types before, and and that they're
hopefully with his kilt on.
Yeah.
I'd like to be dealt with by a guy wearing a kilt, but yes, okay.
And that they're a crazy group that, and they come on strong and they don't let you get a word in edgewise. And he basically did all that to me, and told me that the last circle maker he had spoken to looked like he came from another planet. And these were all disparaging remarks that he was making about circle makers. But he never really answered my question. But he did tell me that we all have to love each other. So I got up after he finished not answering my question and told him, that I felt that he had sort of humiliated me, and I thought I had asked a very legitimate question at a crop circle researching conference. I mean, what more legitimate question about people making crop circles, which they do?
Yes.
And
it's a fair question.
Good question, I thought.
Yeah.
So he backpedaled and said that he was so sorry that he hadn't meant to insult me like that, and that we really do all need to love each other. And then other people got up and basically said that there was no way that these formations could be made by people, that the geometry and the formations are too complicated, that circle makers just, basically aren't that smart. That's basically what they said.
Well, circle makers probably aren't that smart. I mean, speaking personally. I mean, I haven't got any degrees or anything like that. I mean, I'm not the smartest cookie. I mean, my memory skills, I can hardly remember sometimes what happened last week. I'm terrible with names and all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't mean I can't make a crop circle. Mm-hmm. what the hell does intelligence have to do with artistic ability? That's what I say, you know.
Well, some of the people did stand up, and some of the presenters, and they did admit that some circles maybe are made by people. Some maybe are, but definitely not all of them. And that and one person got up and said, the message is too important, that we're heading towards an abyss that we're going to drop off the end of, and that the crop circle messages provide the inspiration that we need not to fall off the end of the cliff. So therefore, if crop circles are made by people, I guess we're going to fall off the cliff. That seems like, I don't know if that's where the person was going with that one, but something like that.
Well, I fancy Abyss, but I'll hold it in till the end of the show. So I think we've got a question from Debbie now.
Yeah, it's just the running question that everybody asked every week, and it's about what's your favourite cheese. It's a really stupid question. What's your favourite cheese and what's your favourite crisps?
Oh my God.
And also, Human Compass says, Cameron, we love you.
Great.
Your fans now, fan club.
Well, thank you.
Do you have a favourite cheese? Seeing as we have to ask the question.
Well, I'm vegetarian, so can we get into that discussion?
You can, yes.
Yeah.
Do you like cheeses without rennet in them? Or you don't like cheeses at all because it means sort of like manhandling cows?
Well,
are you vegetarian or vegan?
I'm pretty much vegan.
There you go. So,
but I
no
think
cheese.
that at this point, we have to admit that, using animal agriculture is just using up too much space, and it's just polluting too much, and it's just, at least in the United States, industrial agriculture has polluted all of our rivers now. We can't even use the rivers anymore because the waste from these big hog farms, and the chicken farms. The chickens don't even ever go outside.
I know.
The poultry,
Sad.
they're inside the whole time. They're piled up on top of each other. It's really disgusting. And,
It's not just disgusting. It's rather sad,
Yeah.
that we kind of, if you're going to, I think if you're going to eat an animal, if you must eat an animal, at least treat it fucking nice before it has to die. Otherwise, what are you going to, well, it's just like, well, let's grow it and then just torture it every day with a pin. Ha 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 ha. Now eat it. Well, that's going to be really nice, isn't it? It's like the Chinese think, if you eat an animal that has had torture, it's gonna store that torture in the food. They actually believe that, and sadly, they actually do that for food because they like the taste of fearful before death food. Yes.
Well, it's all about the money again in the U.S. I mean, it's cheaper to grow chickens all in a house where they never go out. It's cheaper to do that, and they've also made a culture of in the U.S. now of just all meat and dairy, all meat all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what they get up and they have their bacon, egg, and cheese in the morning, and their bologna and cheese in the afternoon, and their hamburger, from McDonald's at night. And all they eat is meat, and that's like, that's what we're told to do with advertising, and that's what everybody does. And it's just, that can't continue. I mean, first of all, everyone in the United States is tremendously unhealthy with cancer and heart disease and overweight and all that. And it's from just eating all meat all the time, all fat all the time.
What do you think? I mean, just as an aside, because I know there's a counter argument as well, which, I mean, I agree with you on the meat. There's too much meat. But what about the vegetables too? Because, I mean, too much vegetables which are grown in a certain way, they're not very good for you either, with certain chemicals and the fact that some vegetarian type stuff isn't really that good for you either. And it's like, what is the ideal food that we should be eating?
Well, I think vegetables and grains are the ideal foods, and fruits and nuts and seeds. But I don't think that they should be done by Monsanto, with industrial agriculture so that they're all, genetically modified. No, I think that, just organic growing is obviously best for everyone. Yeah,
but you taste an onion. If it's organic, it has taste. You taste a normal onion, and it's like, well, that's kind of bland, isn't it? I could slice that up and eat that quite happily without too much, wincing of the eyes. You get an organic one; it's got much more potency, and you get this with a lot of foods. So do you feel this is part of the culture we live in? We're kind of getting fed for the slaughter.
Definitely, we're getting fed just cheap bulk food that makes a lot of money and profit and has nothing left in it. And again, we have lost the ability most people, I mean, it's a little different in the UK because I see people have their allotments in their gardens, but mostly we've lost the ability to grow food ourselves. So we go to the supermarket and we just buy crap because it's cheap, and it's bad, and it makes everybody sick.
And speaking about allotments, I think in Russia, when they were trying to destroy Russia because of the Cold War, they pulled out loads of food and things like that. And Russia survived because it actually had its alternative culture, which meant that people grew their own food. And guess what? Even though they weren't getting any food from outside, they survived.
Yeah.
They couldn't break them. So there's a lesson in that, I think, is, maybe we should be growing some more of our own food. Not that I have a clue how to start on that one, but I suppose making a start would probably be better than no start at all. We've got a question from Debbie.
We have. It's Darthy, and he's saying, would Cameron make cheese and use animals if you had a small holding?
Yeah, I don't have anything against people having, one or two animals in their small family farm and maybe having chickens and having a couple of eggs. What I'm really objecting to mostly is the industrial agriculture, which is so prevalent in the U.S. So, yeah, I think it can be done. I think meat can be a small portion of your daily meal, used for, some small amount of flavoring and stuff. Again, like it was done, back in the day when people would have their, Sunday roast, but the rest of the week would mostly eat, vegetables and grains.
Treat, isn't it?
Yeah, and baked beans and things like that, and then have a little bit of meat.
Yeah. Well, it's a definite eye-opener, the way the world is going, and McDonald's culture certainly isn't helping much. I mean, I saw was it a YouTube video, and you can believe everything you see on YouTube, but they put a burger in the window and left the sun shining on it, and apparently this burger did not degrade. I would like to try this out. I'd like to buy a McDonald's, not eat it, and just put the burger in the window and see if the flies do not eat it and it just doesn't go off. I'd like to find out if there's any truth in that. Do you know much about that sort of stuff, or?
Well, I know that all the food, they say that if you're going to shop at the supermarket and really shop for food that's healthy, just go around the outside edge, because anything in the middle aisles has had so much, chemical added to it for preservatives that it's no longer a viable food. So, you just go to the produce section around the edge, maybe some dairy, maybe a little meat or whatever, and that's it, and just stay out of the middle part of the supermarket.
Yeah, where all the cans and the processed things are. Yeah, we've got some learning to do, I think, before the end time is up. But yes, so right. Well, paranormal. I like to ask the guests: have they had any paranormal experiences whilst out making circles? So, I mean, in general, do you believe in paranormal things? And did you believe before coming to the crop circles? Let's start this properly. Before coming to see crop circles, did you have any interest or beliefs in the paranormal?
Yes.
Right. Could you tell us a little bit about... That's a good answer. I like that. Could you tell us a bit more, please?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
When I went to college, actually at Duke University in the United States, I studied ESP, extrasensory perception. Now, I don't know if that's really considered to be paranormal. It's not aliens. But, it does say that there is a way that people can communicate that's not, through the 5 known senses. And I definitely believe that that can be the case, that people are able to communicate through other ways. Yes. So I mean, in the U.S., that's considered to be weird and paranormal. I think it's pretty obvious. And then I think that over the years, I for a long time believed in in life after death, that there was another experience that you would go through, either reincarnation or whatever. Yes. I don't know how I feel about that now. I have listened to lectures and have people talk about alien abduction. And I don't have anything against it. I don't know if I totally believe in it, but I don't not believe in it. Because, I've heard some, I thought credible people talk about experiences that they have had.
Credible people like Whitley Strieber, who also got me arrested for making crop circles. Yay!
Maybe not that credible person.
Yeah, okay. Got any info on him?
No, no.
Okay.
But, so I'm open-minded about all these things. I mean, I don't think any of these things are as weird as, religion. You know, I mean, when you think about it,
No.
like believing in, like God and Jesus and, all the stuff that they tell you, and the Bible and and I mean, all the stuff that's going on in the United States right now with the Christian right. And, they're trying to influence policy by Bible beliefs. That to me that's paranormal, that kind of stuff. That religious kind of stuff.
Yes.
That's freaky. That's what that is.
Yeah.
It's just, I just don't get it.
I don't
Religion,
either.
I mean, look at what religion does all around the world. I mean, come on, people, wake up. Look
Look at
what is
religion
dividing
has done
us.
and what it's done to women.
Yeah.
What the Catholic Church has done to women. Putting them on a lower level, and the Christian Church too in the United States, putting women on a lower level. I mean, that didn't necessarily exist before.
Oh, I don't know. The Muslim cultures and sort of, seem to be doing a good job of that one as well, don't they?
Well, maybe that's
Yeah.
true. But I'll tell you again, Native American cultures, women were equal. In fact, many of the women were elders and were, the leaders of the tribes. So it was more of a matriarchal society.
Yes.
So, and, I think that there's something to be said for that.
Well, I think you're both heretics, and we should call the Spanish Inquisition.
I hope you don't think we're both witches.
Well, there's still time. Still time. But it's good that you've got these kind of, sort of fresh ideas about the way things should be, even though they may not be the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, paranormal stuff. You said you went into college with ideas of this sort of stuff. You say you've trailed off a little bit on your beliefs about life after death. What just before we go on, what sort of made you change your mind there? Then I'm just curious.
I don't know if I've changed my mind. I just don't feel like I need to believe in that anymore. I think I'm more of I just believe like more in nature and the cycles of nature.
Yeah.
So I don't disbelieve in it. But I think I'm just, I don't know. I just don't feel like I need to hang my hat on that to get through my day.
Right. Okay.
That I'm going to have some afterlife. I think the whole concept of an afterlife is what has kept people sort of in their place for too long. Just be a slave and, do what you're told now, because in the afterlife you'll be in heaven.
That's a good point, because that's what gets given to a lot of cultures, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even the Catholic culture with its sort of, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you say you're sorry for it. And you can do anything. You can kill people, kill the planet, destroy universes. As long as you're sorry at the end of it, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, how many troops, pray before they go into battle that they're going to kick ass?
Oh, yeah. And George Bush standing on the deck of an aircraft carrier saying, "We know that God is behind us and not behind the enemy." Really? God's behind only the West? Wow. Do you know what? There's not that many Westerners actually live on this planet, and if it was a game of numbers, I don't think we'd win.
No.
There we go. But, the lovely Debbie McGee.
Just a question, just going back slightly, some news. He's asking Cameron whether she'd rather read Noam Chomsky or David Icke.
Or would she rather chomps on a Noam? She'd rather chomps on a Noam or read Noam Chomsky. Okay.
Do I have to choose between the two of them?
Well, that's the question.
Can I choose
Is there a
Rupert?
preference?
Can I choose Mike Rupert?
You can.
Who?
Mike Rupert, CollapseNet.
Okay.
Have him check it out.
Collapse, man.
Mike Rupert.
CollapseNet.
CollapseNet.
Yeah.
Okay.
.com.
There we go. CollapseNet.com. Tell us a little bit about it then. What does CollapseNet.com mean?
Mike Rupert was a big 9/11 person, meaning disputing the story of 9/11.
I see. Collapse as in the buildings collapsing.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
Collapse now in the society of the U.S. collapsing. And maybe the collapse of petroleum man, he puts it.
Right.
So, but he started out being a 9/11 quote-unquote truther, of which there are many now, and I am one as well, totally disbelieving the whole 9/11 story.
Yeah.
There's not even a shred of truth in that. It obviously was not Arab terrorists.
Oh, so it's got indestructible passports, certainly, yes.
Yeah, the whole thing is...
Make it out onto the top of the rubble, yeah.
The whole thing is just ridiculous. He started out in that a long time ago, but now, talks a lot about the collapse of society and, what to do about it. And he comes from a background of a lot of knowledge about what's going on with the government.
Sure.
So I don't know if you
Mike
call
Rupert.
him Mike Rupert. I don't know if you
Okay.
call him a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, I think the people that are trying to sell us that, a couple of Arab guys came over and learned how to fly and flew planes into 9/11, I think that's a conspiracy.
Sorry, I was just trying to do the tripod at the same time as you were speaking, but I do agree. Yes, there seems to be some flaws there, and I know that some people have attacked, certain bits of the stuff, but I think the ones that for me are still kind of hanging around in the background, conspiracy-wise, 911, is that NORAD was stood down. And how were they just happening to run a simulation of exactly what happened on the day? Little bit curious, choice of simulations they could have done. And then exactly the same thing happens in Britain when they're doing a thing about what happens if somebody blows up something on the trains, and they just do it on the just a little bit weird how they just have to be
Very
practicing
weird.
these things on the same day, so that
Very-
people who
yeah.
might actually go, hang on, something really is going on, will go, oh, but it's just a training exercise. We can stand down. Bit weird, that, isn't it?
Very weird.
A little bit weird.
Very weird. I mean, there's so many questions. It's just, 9/11 is just, and again, it's like the whole truth thing with the circles and everything else. When you finally discover the truth of 9/11, it makes you really question everything that's gone on since then with the government. You
Yes.
can't ever listen to anything that Obama says and think that it's not a lie. Because once you see that they lied about 9/11 in every aspect of it, it makes you very suspicious.
Yes.
And it makes you a truth seeker, essentially, with what's going on with the government, and with the government here as well. And it's the same thing with, I just don't see why people aren't looking for the truth in all aspects, including circle making.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. It's finding out the truth for yourself and, not taking everything as read. It's quite healthy to look for alternative explanations, I think. I mean, why not? I mean, do you have to listen when a policeman tells you to jump off a bridge? Do you jump off the bridge, or do you say, hang on a minute, I think I want to check this out? That's my attitude.
Yeah.
Anyway, my attitude.
But I think I think the crop circle researchers at these conferences, first of all, I think the conferences should be free. I think they should be free
Yeah.
to everybody.
Absolutely.
They're charging way too much, aren't they?
Yeah. And, I think if these researchers were really researching the truth about crop circles, they would want to be going to the, to the auction that I went to. They would want to be seeking out people that, that are questioning about whether crop circles are made by people. They would want to be doing that if they're researchers and they're academics. I would think that they would want to be finding out the truth.
And we should just say, I'm just going to go to Debbie in a sec, but just say that at the auction we did, where we sold diagrams of circle maker designs, and we were given a few by some other very good circle makers, including the mysterious Agent J, whose name shall not be mentioned. These things went for quite a lot of money for charity, and we got £620. So thanks to everybody involved, and that's going to Sea Shepherd, who, I meant to say this, we have good news. Look, Sea Shepherd. See, I wear the Sea Shepherd T-shirt because I was going to mention it, and I almost forgot to mention it. But the Steve Irwin has been released. The Sea Shepherd ship Steve Irwin has been released. They didn't have to end up paying the $1.5 million that they thought they were going to have to, US dollars. The court actually said, well, okay, we'll let you have it for $500,000 and you can have your ship back for that. That's good enough to sort of post as a bond. So they got their ship out, and I don't think they're going to be going back to fucking Shetland Islands anytime soon.
So do you want to hear what they thought about that auction at the conference?
Yes. Will your point wait a minute, Deb?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I did ask about that, and how could they explain that all the graphs and the diagrams and they were being auctioned off.
Yes.
Before the diagrams that were made and formations that were on paper before they were made in the fields. How could this happen if they're not being made by people? And their response was that those diagrams that you auctioned off.
Yeah.
At the auction.
Get ready for this, folks. This is a revelation.
This
okay.
is how they explained it.
This is how it happened.
What you did was you went on to Crop Circle Connector, and you went to the comment sections of all the different crop circles that have appeared over the last few years. And when people discuss online, the different circles, and they make all these diagrams, you took those diagrams. You printed them out, and those are the diagrams that you were selling as if they were original diagrams of crop circle makers.
My God.
That's
How can
what
they
we were doing.
explain the actual originals then?
They caught me out.
They said they weren't originals.
Found
Well, they
out
were.
my
You can
secret.
Well, they
tell.
said they weren't.
They had mud on them and all sorts.
They found out my secret technique of circle
your
maker
secret
diagram downloading. Oh no.
They said that if you had an auction of stuff that was going to be done next week in a field and you auctioned that off, that they would come to that auction and they would want to meet you.
Well, of course they would, with a guy dressed in a rather sort of strange uniform with a tit on his head, But I didn't say that, did I? I'm not in trouble with these people. No, we love titties on heads. Titties, heads, and tits are all great. Yes, we love it. Yes.
You know what they spent 20 minutes talking about at the question and answer period?
Mm-hmm.
The pipe.
Oh, the pipe in
The
the
alien pipe.
alien smoking a pipe.
Was it a peace pipe? Was it a Swiss pipe? Was it a French pipe? Was it a marijuana pipe? Was it an alpine horn?
They spent 20 minutes talking
An alpine
about that.
horn.
It was playing music. That's what they
Good
spent
Lord.
most of the time asking questions about what kind of a pipe it was. And that circle, that formation was made by the aliens to teach us to have humor in our lives.
I suppose if somebody put a very good graphical representation of Michael Glickman in field with penises on the end of his fingers, they'd be asking why the aliens say he has such great reproductive power according to the aliens. They'd be like debating that one. Yes, I'm sure. And
Oh yeah, and the circle that was done partly one day and then partly the next day, that circle, that
yes,
formation,
yes.
with the 5, what I thought were scarabs but are supposedly lobsters. I was
Are you
told-
talking about? I think were they meant to be owls?
I thought they were,
Somebody thought they were scarabs.
well, they
but
told me at the conference they were lobsters.
lobster is, or as somebody used to say, lobsterism is bummicismus. Yes.
And that happened over 2 days because the aliens are trying to teach us patience.
Oh dear.
Yeah. What? Mm-mm. Okay. Well, I kind of thought that they were supposed to be owls because there's lots of birds been along in the past, but scarabs. They didn't look like scarabs, but scarabs did appear this year, didn't they? Next to the Eastfield, and they were shaved out very quickly by Sir Tim Carson, Esquire. And his newly acquired farm hands that don't come from the area. Yes, Sir Tim Carson, Esquire, plc.china.cn. Yes, he'd be employing Chinese people next, wouldn't he? To farm the fields. Yeah.
Do you want to know what
Well, it's just
Michael
for profit, you
Glickman
see.
says
It's
is the
just for
newest
profit.
thing that
It's
proves
just
that they're
profit.
alien-made?
Sorry, I was being sarcastic then. Just for profit. You've got to make a profit.
Okay,
Fuck your friends. You've got to make a profit. As somebody. Here we go. Right, I got a point to put it in. Right, yeah. Sorry. Keep your point. Right.
I got my point.
Right, my point. Right. As somebody said to me that you knew and loved from this show, but is no longer here. Right. Used to tell me all the time, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And you don't want to get eaten, do you? Nice. No, I don't. But it doesn't mean you have to make the fucking world a dog-eat-dog world. But there we go. Anyway, sorry. Over to you, Cameron. Sorry.
okay. I just was remembering that supposedly Michael Glickman spoke earlier on in that morning of the Devises conference.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that one, but I was told that he gave absolute proof that crop circles are made by aliens.
Oh, goodness me.
Well, absolute proof.
You know what it was?
No.
Tell us.
Please tell
This
us,
is
though.
the first time.
I'm trying to think what it might be, but it was obviously going to be a piece of paper or his
Well-
opinion, isn't it? Yeah.
This is the first time that the aliens have stood crops up instead of flattening them down. They took crops and they stood them up, and that was proof.
Really? Well, we've been standing up crops for years when we've been making mistakes. I termed the thing years ago. I used to call it Dr. Crop. I've spoken about it in lectures. Dr. Crop. You fucked up and you have to do Dr. Crop. So you Dr. Crop that area over there. and Dr. Crop comes and magically makes the stalk stand up. And then within a day, the plants have kind of almost healed themselves, and then they don't want to fall over anymore. But you do have to kind of like tuft them a little bit so that they kind of, they're like that. And then eventually they'll sort of repair themselves and they'll straighten up. Dr. Crop. You know, plants are capable of repairing themselves. If I cut myself now on my hand, do you know a funny thing? It'll repair itself. It's weird, that. I think we should get a scientific team in to find out why. Why does things repair themselves? They don't happen to be alive, do they? Okay, well, we won't dwell on that one, but yes. Oh, so he said it was standing up. Which circles did this happen in then that was so peculiar? Did he say?
The most recent ones that had happened.
They were standing them up. I wonder if they made mistakes.
Maybe.
And they had to stand the bloody crop back up. God alive, it's terrible, isn't it? I mean, it's like, here we go, the proof, folks. It's the proof. You just need to stand them back up. Yeah, right, okay.
Well, I mean, I can see that this is their big business because the people that were there were not, deep thinkers. They were there because they wanted the message that they're being told.
Well,
they want that message.
Not only that. Oh, sorry, I got the wrong camera on. But not only that, they want something exclusive every year as well. It's got to be new. It's like your statement earlier on has to apply to the crop circle world as well. It's like you can't just have the old sofa. You got to have the new sofa, and it's got to be a different color sofa every year. And then it's not sofas are out then, and then it's futons. A futon, you got to have a futon. If you don't have a futon, then you're a spasmo. You know, and that's not politically correct to say that, but fucking spasmo it is. So it's like. Or what's the current one is like you're a mentalist. I think it was from you're a mentalist, mental. But yeah, why so they've got to have a new thing. If we as circle makers say, well, here's how you do X, Y, and Z, they go, oh well, we've got double X, double Y, and triple A. What are you gonna do about that one? We're always ahead of you guys because we just make it up as we go along. So okay, yes. So what have we got? Any questions from the channel? We should go and...
I asked one earlier and I'm just trying to find it again now. It's basically, where is it? Saying, what did you get out of actually making a crop circle after believing, that it wasn't human-made? What experience have you got out of that, and has it changed at all?
Yeah, well, it definitely changed. I mean, first of all, it's a tremendous feeling of accomplishment, when you make a crop circle, even if you're not the designer of it, if you're just there as the labor just to do the tromping down and everything, when you've worked all night on something with other people, like a communal effort, first of all, that's a really cool thing to do. Being outside is fantastic at night.
It's lovely,
under the beautiful starry skies. You're doing this work, it's hard work, but you've got you're trying to accomplish something. You've got your goal of finishing the circle before it gets to be light. And then the next day you see it, and it's just this beautiful formation that someone has designed in their mind, and you've put it onto a field. It's a tremendous feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah, definitely.
So to me, that is, they kept talking at the conference about, the hoax, the hoaxers, and the hoaxers this and the hoaxers that.
That's a horrible word, isn't it? Because it's nothing to do with hoaxing, is it?
No, but then they're talking about this wonderful message that the crops have. How can the
Exactly.
How can it be?
Yeah. How can they marry the two together?
They can't marry the two together.
No, it doesn't work.
If the message is so wonderful, they should be applauding the hoaxers.
Yeah.
They should be giving them a gold medal for doing what they're doing if they're giving these wonderful messages to all these people.
And it's not about hoaxing. It's not about fooling anybody, is it? It's about handing something over that's wonderful, like you just said.
And that make people feel so fantastic when they go into the formation.
How can something so positive actually be called a hoax? I don't get it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work, does it?
It doesn't work.
It does. Out of telling people that it's not people.
Well,
and,
so who are the hoaxers?
Well, yeah, exactly.
You're the hoax. Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
They're the hoaxers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who are the hoaxers?
Aha. Good point.
Right. Okay. So we were on the paranormal, and we got off a little bit, didn't we? We got onto what is technically known in the trade as a fucking tangent. So let's tange back now. Tange in the right direction
to the paranormal.
To the paranormal. So you kind of said about you changed your views on life after death. You were kind of more of a sort of it's nature, and we all kind of recycle into the kind of if that's I'm getting it right.
Yeah. That's it.
But what about paranormal experiences of other things though? Have you had any ghost experiences or any sort of experiences with precognition? You said ESP, so precognition comes into that, doesn't it?
Yeah, precognition. I don't think that's anything that's hard to explain. I don't consider that paranormal. I mean, there is certainly an energy force of consciousness and of the universe. So tapping into that is not a big question. But I did have a strange experience when I was traveling across the country, and I was out in the area where the cows had been drained of their blood and were on their sides. Back in
mutilations.
Yeah. And.
Mutilations.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
That was kind of weird. But then I was...
I'm trying. No class A's, I'm trying.
I was traveling across the country with my husband, Jim. We had just... we were in a van and everything, and this is the area. We were in that area in Arizona. We pulled over. We were just getting ready, going to sleep. All of a sudden, there were lots of lights right behind us. And so we thought it was a cop, because that happened all the time, that we would be told that it's not like around here. You can't just like park and sleep in the U.S. You have to, you have to be in an approved area, or they'll kick you out and make you move on.
Really? On the side of the road?
Oh, no, yeah. Absolutely not.
But sorry, rewind, because I'm listening.
You
now.
can't in a
park.
van just pull over on the side of the road and sleep in your van in most places in the U.S.,
Really?
even on major highways.
Oh, I thought it was kind of cool out there for that sort of stuff.
No,
it's not, is it?
No.
You just get the police giving you loads
You get
of
the
grief.
police. So we thought it was the police, but there was no sound.
Right.
It was just all the lights and everything, but no sound. And we were on a gravelly pull-off, and there was no sound of gravel. But there were all the lights. And so we get up and we, start putting some clothes on so that we can, go out and, have the police basically shine a flashlight in our faces. And we open up the door of the van and there's nothing there. It's just nothing.
Whoa.
So that was it. I thought that was kind of strange.
Alien disco.
Yeah.
But no sound system.
Or they just took off and we were just left there.
Right.
I don't know.
I had a weird one when I went to visit Area 51 and I drove up in a car with no number plates on it, because you've got this weird thing in the States when you buy a brand new car, it can have no plates. And you apply for them. So you put a little note in your window saying, I'm applying for plates, honestly. But in that period of time, you can drive around with no plates. So speed cameras are not going to do very much, are they? And they're not going to work very well. And it's kind of, you've got this... I'm not up there on the screen. You're telling a truth. This is a truism. Yes. I'm not on the screen. So anyway, this I was parked up and going to sleep in a sleeping bag. It's very cold. I never realised, okay, you're in the desert, but it gets like minus temperatures at night. So I had this sleeping bag and I was like shivering in this sleeping bag. And it was a car kept on coming back up and around and driving around my car. And I think it was because they couldn't work out what the plates were. So they were driving around and around and around because they were pissed off because they couldn't work out who I was. And I always thought this was kind of funny, because they couldn't work out who I was. So I milked that. I actually pulled the little thing off the back window in so they would make it even harder, and they would have to come up and tap on the window and go, oh, is it fallen off? Oh, yes, here it is. I was very sorry. I'm from England. Don't you know? We don't know about these things. But
so
that didn't actually happen. That was 1990, something like that, maybe.
Okay, well, now you'd be tasered.
Really?
Yeah.
For not having number plates?
They're getting, well, not necessarily for that, but they're getting a little bit carried away now with their tasering.
Oh, yes, I've seen it. I have seen it. It's terrible, isn't it? Tasering old people.
Yeah.
There was a guy who was trying to race his dog to the veterinary hospital, and they said, hey, you can't be racing. Of course, they race around, but it's okay for them to race, but it's not okay for you to race, even though it's an emergency. So they got this guy, and this guy's like, my dog's dying. And they said, hey, I don't give a fuck. He's like, but it's dying. It's fucking dying. And they're like, you tasered him. Fucking tasered him. And they said, right, well, your dog is not as important as people. Your dog is not fucking important. So we're just going to wait here now, and it's just your fault. You've been tasered, and we're going to wait here, and it's too fucking bad. And the dog died. Because they were there for 20 minutes when they could have been getting to the vet. So there you go. It's bad. It's bad shit.
Well, you get tasered or you get shot.
Yeah.
Like Amadou Diallo, who got shot 87 times.
Yeah. Had he stopped moving by bullet too? 87 times.
Do your cops have guns?
They do, actually.
Oh, now they do?
I think some of them might have been looking for me the other day. Yeah. Weird. seem to have this effect on the police. Yeah. Yes, we won't go into it. But yes, I've seen police officers with quite a few police officers actually with guns in Wiltshire. I believe outside the Metropolitan Police in London, Wiltshire used to be the most heavily armed police force in the United Kingdom. Weirdly. Maybe it's because it's got the most thickest skulled, retards who come out of the army who just can't do without their guns, and they had to find some way to make them happy, so they just gave them guns. Of course, you could get out of the army and go straight into the police force without any educational qualifications of any kind. Yeah, yum. Yeah, it's like, so these people are obviously in the police force, and of course they think that it's wartime out there. It's war. Where's the enemy? We've got to kill the enemy. Yes. And of course you get some very silly people with low IQs actually in charge of guns on our streets. Great.
Same with the U.S.
Yeah. I believe I heard a report saying that in the US they didn't want you to have a high IQ or qualifications to join the police. Reason being, because statistics showed that people who had IQs wouldn't stay in the police force. So therefore, if you passed the high IQ tests, you wouldn't get in. Because they knew that you wouldn't stay. So there was no point in training you up to waste all that money and time and effort when you weren't going to stay. So the only people they would allow into the police force are people who came below a certain IQ. Now, isn't that great? Isn't it? It's just people who'll do what you tell them, and they don't think about it, and they're like, yeah, I got a gun. He told me that I got to point it at the guy and just taser him, and then if he goes, please don't taser me, then he's a terrorist and I can shoot him. That sort of level of mentality that you tend to have out there. Of course, we shouldn't question authority. No, if you question authority, then you're a fucking terrorist, aren't you? Yes, absolutely.
Well, there was just an article in one of your papers yesterday about you're supposed to tell if you think the person living next to you is an anarchist.
It's coming.
They want you to report any person that might.
Yeah, I might come into that category. You making a circle, you might come into that category. But the thing is as well, with what you think may be round the corner in the US and what I'm wondering is round the corner in the US and all these little camps they're building, I mean, we know who these are for, don't we? They're not for the McDonald eating, sofa buying, big car, Hummer driving people, are they? They're not really, because they're the good guys. Who do you think those camps are for? Cameron.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you better learn how to fly an aircraft or a hovercraft or something, because
get a boat. Get a fast boat.
Get a rocket off the planet or some alien friends. We've got a question here from somebody.
It's going back to a point that you made earlier, and it's from GBZ, and saying about the point that you made about the crop circle conferences being quite expensive. He's saying, how if you want to get in for free entry, who is going to pay for the hire of the venue?
It's a bit rude, isn't it? Free entry. Sorry. Only paid entry here.
Do you know when you was talking about the crop circle conferences and stuff?
Of course.
It was so expensive.
The price is a lot more than the
hire
price
of the
renting
venue.
The venue. Yeah, I mean, people could pay a modest amount.
Even if you paid £1.
Right, to hire the venue. But I'm sure many of these speakers get very, very substantial speaker fees.
Yeah. I think you'll find, I don't mean to throw the cat amongst the pigeons here, but going back to Glastonbury Symposium days, a lot of the people who speak there are just glad for the professional ability to be able to speak at such a wonderful conference.
So where's all that money going then from paying so much to get in?
Where exactly is that money going?
Where is it?
Stevie boy.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But he's got to fly his helicopters round the same circles, 4 times a week. Somehow, hasn't he? He's got to be flying round the same circle he's photographed 3 times already, again, about 4 times a week. Yeah, we see you up there, Steve. We're not stupid. Yeah? How many times do you have to fly round the same circle? Yeah? Can't you get it in one go? But there we go. That's why you pay lots of money to conferences like that.
Another quick question. Darthy's saying, what do you charge for your workshops, Cameron?
Okay, that's a good question, because we charge $20 for our workshops. That's the most important thing, is that they're low cost.
Yes.
And there's no commitment of anything but the cost for the workshop. And we also have a sliding scale. So if people don't feel that they can afford the $20, they tell us. And then we charge them $10, or we charge them nothing, and they just help us with maybe cleaning up or something.
Yeah.
So we
that's
have a
fair
very
enough.
fair way of doing it, and
When you
I'm very proud
say
of that.
£20
That's how it
is
should
very
be.
reasonable.
Yep.
I mean,
$20.
what do you get?
$20.
Yeah, what?
That's
$20.
£10.
That's £15, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 15.
But what do you get for that? You probably get a whole day for $20, yeah?
Well, you get a whole afternoon for $20.
Exactly.
And you learn how to do something, and you take something home with you. Maybe you've learned how to, I don't know, can some food or something, or so you take that home with you. Or maybe you've learned how to make an herbal remedy. You take the herbal remedy home with you, the cream or the the salve or something that you've made, or a tincture, and you take it home with you as
So you
well.
have something of value to go home with, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get a cup of tea? Nightmare Bug says. Do you get a cuppa?
We're not into the whole tea thing in the US.
No.
No,
So what do
I
you
know, I've
get? Do you
tried
get a
their tea.
refreshment then?
Coffee.
I've tried
Cup
it.
of
It's-
coffee.
Yeah, coffee.
Yeah, they don't do their teas. I've tried it. It's not good, folks. But yes, the whole thing about conferences and the charges. I remember when you could go to a whole UFO conference, and you still pretty much can in some circumstances. You go to a whole UFO conference for a whole day for like 20 quid, yeah. And these things are like up in the 90 quid a day region. There's a big difference there, and you can't really say that a lot of these speakers are kind of like international speakers that need to be flown in. And okay, costs have gone up. We know the cost of living's gone up, but is it gone up that much? This is being run for profit, folks. We know it, you know it, they know it. They don't care. And they'll just give you whatever you want, in terms of guff for the very high price that you pay. And it seems like it almost excludes. This is the funny thing, right? I've thought this before. You charge a ridiculous amount of money for a conference, and you put on silly speakers that talk absolute horse shit, yeah? And the only people who are going to pay it are the people who are stupid enough to pay it. So therefore, you're feeding the correct audience. Yes? You're feeding the correct audience, because only the people who've got the silly amounts of money and are prepared to pay it to hear crazy, utter, unresearched crap will pay it. That's your audience. You're feeding it to the correct audience. That's what they want. And the fact that they can pay more money means that they got more. Because they're of this silly mentality, like we were talking about earlier on. If that sofa costs £1,000, it's much better than a sofa that costs £250, because it costs more. So you can go and tell people, I paid more for my sofa than your sofa, so it must be better. It must be. I paid £10,000 for my sofa. It must be better. So, of course, you go to a conference where it costs £1,000. Michael Glickman gives you a lecture for 5 minutes for £20,000. Well, he must know what he's talking about to charge £20,000. So it must be good. It must be good. And people are glad to pay it. And the trouble is, and I hate to say it, Cameron, and you probably know this is the truth, you charge 20 quid, people will be like, well, that doesn't cost very much. Can't be very good, can it?
People have said that.
People do think like this.
People have said that.
They
Yeah.
don't understand the true worth of things. This is the silly, strange sort of
Well, I mean,
world we live in.
technically, it shouldn't cost anything to give people knowledge of
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
or to give people art. And again, in many indigenous cultures, I hate to keep going back to the Native Americans, but many tribes in the Native American population, they didn't have money. And the wampum was not money, by the way. Wampum was the way they recorded events, major events, on belts that were woven together and that told stories. There was no currency. So you don't have to have money. That's something that we have constructed, so that some people basically can get a lot of it and other people can have not a lot of it. But you don't have to have money. People can just give each other knowledge and art and
Yes.
crafts and things that they've made for free or for barter.
And there's even an attack at the moment going on PBS, isn't there? They're trying to take away educational services and free television services. And PBS was famous for Sesame Street, which is world famous, for kind of like educational. They want to take away Big Bird and Kermit the Frog and Sesame Street because it's education. And you see, the powers that be don't want an educated mass, because an educated mass equals high IQ. High IQ means you won't want to be the police officer, would you? Because you know it's not fucking sane to be in that position a lot of the time. So yes, people with high IQs will probably become the threat. The threat that needs to be dealt with. So yeah, there we go.
Dumbing down.
Dumb them down, exactly. You know, there's been a lot of education over the years, and the internet is educating people. But hey, you know, as you're learning, people on the internet start revolutions, don't they? People on the internet with Facebook, they start revolutions. Oh dear, people on the internet, terrorists. People who use the internet, they're the terrorists. Yeah. Anonymous, they're the terrorists. Gary McKinnon's terrorists. And my ex-friend, well, he's still a friend, but, you know, we don't speak much anymore, but Matt Bevan, you know, terrorist. And yes, it's true, because I know him. He's a fucking terrorist. Go and get him. And go and get him so you avoid me. Yeah, leave me alone, go get him. Anyway, it's a dog-eat-dog world, as we were told, isn't it? It's a dog-eat-dog world. And you don't want to be eaten, do you? Do you want to be eaten? Yeah. I hope she's watching, whoever she is. Yeah, right. Okay.
Nightmare Bugs wants to know, what was the name of the two old sods in the theatre box in... What were they?
Ernie and...
No, not Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Ernie. Waldorf and Standen and Waldorf or something.
Was it?
Yeah, Waldorf and something. Yeah.
They were great.
I loved it. It was
Boo!
great. It was great. Well, I didn't really think that much of it. No, well, it wasn't that good. Yeah, no, boo!
It was the worst performance I've ever seen. Boo!
Standen and Waldorf or something. Waldorf and Tatler.
Is that
Waldorf and Tatler, yes. There we are.
you go.
See, I can't remember anything current because everything current is bullshit. But I can remember stuff from years ago because that was quite nice. Everything now is bullshit, so I don't remember any of it.
When did it turn to bullshit? When exactly?
When did it turn to bullshit? God, I think when I started looking into crop circles and realising how people just don't get it. That was when it turned for me. But, right, Cameron, the paranormal. We're going to finish this one.
We're going back to that?
Oh, we've got to go back to this because everyone tells me that they want this show to be about the paranormal because it's so great. The paranormal is good.
You've used up my paranormal stories.
Your paranormal battery's expired.
Yeah, that's pretty much it with the paranormal.
Oh, okay. So you haven't had any strange experiences while making circles then? Not yet?
No. I wish I had, but I hadn't.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered it then. But at least I've asked the question because people will complain to me. They say, well, you didn't finish, what about crop circles and the paranormal? How about this year? Are you impartial to some of the knowledge about what's been going on this year? Because there have been some circles that have appeared that certain teams haven't had the knowledge that other teams have been out doing the similar designs on the same night. Have you heard that stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's last year when I heard a lot about what was going on with all this controversy.
Yes.
I kind of suggested, well, why don't the circle makers not make circles for a year, and then those poor tour people and all the conference people won't have any circles to go look at, and won't that be a slap in the face?
Yeah, nearly happened at the beginning of the year. They were talking about it, weren't they?
Yeah. So I don't think the crop circles mostly have been as, let's say, extravagant as they have been in the last couple of years. I
think there'll probably be a few season finales.
I hope so.
Talk is on the cards.
Oh, good. Okay.
You probably have you heard the vibes? Have you got the vibes from the kind of the circle makers you've spoken to? They're kind of saying, well, okay, we're kind of starting to do them again now towards the end. Are you getting that sort of vibe from them? Yeah?
Yeah.
How long are you here for in the UK?
4 more days.
Oh.
I hope I get the vibe before then.
I hope the vibe gets out there before then, yes. And hopefully you'll be there with the vibe helping them out so that people like me don't have to because I'm going to be packing my bags.
All right.
Yes.
To go off the grid.
Well, I kicked off the grid, perhaps, yes, yeah. So, well, it looks like we've got 4 minutes to go, so we better just check, have we got any questions that haven't been asked in the channel? And if there are any questions that haven't been asked so far, please do tell us, because we will try and get them in. Dorothy says, I'll do sweeping. Don't know what that's in relation to.
I think it's going back to when you were saying that if people couldn't afford to spend $20, then they would help out.
Oh,
well,
tell him to come on over.
He's probably saying that he'd sweep for you.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think somebody, I got a terrible mind. You'll have to forgive me for Cameron, but somebody here says, ho. Right.
Oh.
But I'm not sure which spelling they're using, but I think they were talking about the ancient, like American Indian sort of greeting of ho. Yeah. But I think they got the spelling wrong here.
That's the garden implement. Ho. Is it?
Do they mean how?
No, they're spelling it like the black hole.
I thought that it was like the garden implement, the hoe.
H-O-E.
H-O-E.
Oh, right. Okay. Is it H-O or I don't know. What are they trying to say? These people.
Oh, crisps and cheese. We covered that. What did you say your cheese was? Your favourite cheese was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. Vegetarian.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you had your own goat and cow, you'd eat cheese then? Which would you prefer, and would you keep it like, would you try to make it in a certain style of some type of cheese?
Goat's cheese, yum yum. Sorry.
Brie.
Brie. So it's going to be quite runny. There you go. It's going to be runny, folks.
Brie, people, it's brie.
Brie. Okay. So Dorothy says we still have armed response units, but I think he's spelt it wrongly. He says we still have armed response units. So
About whether the cops have guns?
Yeah, they're saying that they had tasers.
We have
and
armed ponce units. Yes. Armed ponces out there.
Dear.
Well, also in the U.S. now we have a lot of mercenary, like Blackwater. I don't know if you have that here.
Not
XE
quite.
it's called XE.
Yes.
But when we had the New Orleans flood and everything, instead of the cops being sent in, local cops, they sent in Blackwater.
Yeah.
Because Blackwater guys will they'll just taser, they'll shoot, they don't care.
So they're not police.
Well, they've got no job to lose, have they? They can just get employed somewhere else afterwards.
They're
it's like a security force that we would have here.
A hired security force.
Ex-military and people who don't give a fuck, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And they don't have to answer many questions. They just get sent in.
And also they're not firing on their own relatives and friends because they're not from the area.
Yeah.
Oh, God, blimey.
And that's been talked about, actually, in the UK, bringing in foreign police forces to deal with British insurgent situations, is because they won't care about firing at us because our own forces might. So the situation that was talked about in V for Vendetta, where they won't shoot at us because they're us. Well, they will shoot at us because they're not us.
Yeah.
They don't give a fuck about us. So they've thought about this one, but so what else we got? If Cameron wants a free entry to the Crop Circle conference, who is going to pay for the hire of the venue?
We covered that one, didn't we?
Did you? You covered that one?
Yeah, I covered that one.
Okay. Anyway, last questions. Crisps.
Twinkies.
And Twinkies.
Do they still do Twinkies in America?
They're very popular, aren't they?
I don't know if they still have them.
Really?
I had them a
Maybe they
long
do.
time ago. They're yummy.
Yeah.
They're probably not good for you.
Probably
but
not very good for you. Probably not anything real.
I was told
exactly, yeah.
that clotted cream is banned in the United States because it's just
Yeah.
deemed too bad.
What? How could they say that?
I was told this last night. Clotted cream
With
is banned.
everything else they sell in the U.S.,
Exactly.
that's too bad.
Yeah.
Cheese in a can.
Yeah.
It squeezes out of a can. I mean, what's that?
Well, maybe they just haven't got the secret recipe for clotted cream yet. So of course it has to be banned in the US because it's going to take it away from other products.
I was actually going to take some last year when I went to visit friends in America, and I was told I couldn't.
Clotted cream,
Clotted
not
cream,
allowed.
yeah, not allowed.
You know that in the
happened to you
U.S.
for
all the
that?
cereals have blueberries? Do they have that here because they're so good with
Say that again, sorry?
antioxidants? Do all the cereals here have blueberries because they're
No.
so good with antioxidants? Well, that's a big thing in
Blueberries.
the U.S.
It's
Blueberries
illegal.
is the best thing because they're filled with antioxidants, so everybody wants to eat blueberries.
Right.
So
I
they
eat
put them in all the
blueberries
cereals in
daily.
the U.S., except they just divulge that they're fake blueberries in all the boxes of cereal. They're made from fat
No.
that's colored.
No.
Yes, it's just like maraschino cherries that you put in your drink are not cherries.
Really?
They're fat.
No.
Formed fat with food coloring.
Oh my God. That's interesting. Thank you for that. I'll have to have a look out for that because, I mean, it's somebody was telling me who worked in a meat factory. They said, they take all the meat off the bone,
Right.
and then they pulp it up with water, and then they spray it back on the bone so that there's less meat there. Yeah, and then they slice it off, and it looks like it's not meat. When you buy sliced meat in a packet, it's not really meat. It's meat plus water. And if you have a look on the back, it says plus water content. And it's how much they've actually fattened it out. It's
Not good.
yeah. No, so when you get meat, is it really meat? Even if it looks like meat,
Oh dear.
Yeah, they just, every little chance they take to make a quick penny, like an extra millionth of a penny, they'll do it. It's terrible. So, okay, right, what is anybody saying? Crisps, Twinkies, I'm not in Canada anymore, nothing on crisps, shredded. What about cottage cheese? Like canola, rapeseed oil. It's terrible for your heart, but they replaced olive oil and coconut oil because it's cheaper to make. And fatty blueberries. So, okay, if we've got no more questions, we're at 10 o'clock, so we're going to finish this one here. And thank you very much, everybody in channel. We've been Very glad to have you here. How many have we got? Let's just have a quick look. We've got 17 users in channel, so we've probably got about 30, 40 users watching live, and we know we get lots more users on YouTube now watching because no adverts. Great. So thanks to Cameron, our guest, who's over that way, because you think that she's over that way because other way my eyes normally turn towards the screen, but as I was explaining earlier on, Cameron's actually over that way, you see? So it looks like I'm looking at Cameron now, but I'm actually looking at the screen. You see, Cameron is looking at the side of my head the whole night. Yes,
Hello.
So hello, Cameron, over the complete opposite. No, Cameron's over that way, sorry. Cameron's over that way, and my eyes are going that way, which is weird. So thank you, Cameron, for looking at the side of my head. You looked at
Thank you for having me here.
Thanks.
This is great.
We shall hopefully get some more updates from you about your crop circle activities, and thank you for not admitting to which ones, so you can carry on making and hopefully start some teams in the US.
Yes, that would be great.
There you go. Okay, so to everybody who's been watching in channel, thank you very much. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can do through the blah, 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 and that's cropcirclemakerstv.org. And yes, we shall see you next week when we hopefully have another exciting guest, maybe the last show we know of. So, okay, CirclemakersTV.org. Thanks a lot.
Oh my.
No Agent SF. No longer. It has been edited out. Go away.